Hello everyone, welcome to this video lecture on non-destructive testing. In the next set of videos, we're going to be discussing the fourth module in the non-destructive testing subject, which is the ultrasonic testing methods. Now, this is the module 4 syllabus. This is the module 4 of the syllabus in NDT, which consists of the introduction to ultrasonic testing, its various principles, the different testing methods, and the accessories used, and also the advantages, disadvantages, and limitations. Now, we move on to ultrasonic testing. So, first of all, we have to define what is an ultrasound, right? So, as you see here, we have given a sound spectrum here, 0 to 20 hertz. It's called an infrasound. Infrasound is actually the earthquake, and between 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz is the audible sound, that is that we can listen to speech, music are all the examples. So the sound frequency, if it is greater than 20,000 hertz, it is known as an ultrasound, which we cannot hear. Example, bats, the sound created by bats, quartz crystals, etc. Now this is the range of the sound spectrum here. So in this testing method, what we'll be dealing is with the third row. As you can see that the sound range is greater than, or the sound frequency is actually greater than 20,000 hertz, which is the ultrasound. Now, ultrasonic testing is actually more versatile compared to the other testing methods. That is, it can be applicable for almost all materials, metallic or even non-metallic. In the principle of ultrasonic testing, it uses high frequency sound signals in order to make examinations and fine measurements. That is, in order to determine the various defects and the depth of the defects also. Now, ultrasonic examinations can be conducted on a variety of material forms, including the products from casting, forging, welds, and composites. Using ultrasonic testing method, we can mainly determine the surface and internal discontinuities. For example, laps, seams, void, crack, blowholes, inclusions, lack of bonding, etc. They can be accurately be evaluated, and it can be easily determined using this method. Now, the usual frequencies for non-destructive testing methods are actually this. In the ultrasonic testing method, the usual sound frequency is between 0.5 to 10 megahertz. The selection of the frequency depends on a lot of factors. First one is the roughness of the surface. Second one is the grain size of the material, that is the material structure. And third one, the dimensions of the flaw. The detection of a small flaw, that is, if you have a small discontinuity, it requires the use of a higher frequency. Right, that is, if the size of the flaw is small, you need to use higher frequencies, but actually there is a limit above which you cannot go. So there's a practical limit that is set up by the surface roughness and the grain size. So there are three factors upon which the frequency in this method is set. Now, this is the acoustic spectrum as we've determined. This is the sonic range or the audible human ear, that is 16 hertz to 20 kilohertz, up to which we can hear. Above that, it is the ultrasonic sound waves. The frequency is greater than 20,000 hertz or 20 kilohertz. And in the ultrasonic testing method, the range that we use here is 0.5 megahertz to 50 megahertz. This is the sound frequency that is being used. Now, this is the basic principle of ultrasound testing. A typical ultrasound inspection system consists of several functional units such as a pulsar or a receiver, a transducer, and display devices. Here, pulse or receiver is actually the electronic device that produces the signal, the sound signal. They can produce high voltage ultrasonic signals. They are driven by the pulsar, and the transducer generates high frequency energy. This energy is then sent through to the surface that is to be inspected. Now, in ultrasonic testing, the ultrasound transducer is connected to a diagnostic machine. That is, it is connected to a machine, and this machine is then passed over the object that is to be inspected. The sound energy is introduced by using the transducer, and it is passed through the diagnostic machine, and then into the material. It propagates through the material in the form of sound waves, and the transducer is typically separated from the test object. That is, between the transducer and the object to be tested, there is a couplant that is being used, such as oil or water. It is not necessary that a couplant has to be used. For example, when the ultrasonic testing is conducted using a EMAT, electromagnetic acoustic transducer, no couplant is required. Now, when there is a discontinuity, that is, if you have a crack or any sort of defect that causes a discontinuity in the path where the sound is traveling, that part of the energy will be reflected back towards the surface. The reflected wave signal that is received by the machine is then transformed into electric signal by the transducer, and it is displayed on the screen. Now, this is actually what has been displayed on the screen. the reflected signal strength is actually displayed versus time from the signal generation when the echo is received. So time is there on the x-axis and the pulse is there on the y-axis. So this is the pulse and receiver, this is the machine, and this is the transducer. As you can see, whenever there is a crack that is being developed, sound waves will reflect off from the crack and reach back to the transducer. That is what being shown here. This is the initial pulse signal, it is then traveling. This is the crack echo, the signal that we receive. This indicates that there is a crack here, and then again the remaining signal that will reach the bottom surface, hit at the bottom surface and reach back. So this is the back surface echo. So this peak indicates the presence of a crack in the material. Now, again, we'll go through the basic principle. First of all, sound is transmitted in the material to be tested. This is the transducer part. This is the machine that produces the signal that is being sent into the material. The sound is reflected back, and the flow is reflected in the DAC, that is in the data acquisition system. We can see that the fault will be like this. Then there will be, if there is a crack, right, if there was a crack, as we've seen in the previous graph, there will be two peaks. One of the peak has a lower intensity, the peak will be lower, which means that the flow has been defected, I mean the defect has been found out. Then there is a larger peak will be there. That larger peak represents that the signal has reached the bottommost part and has reflected back towards the surface. That is, this is the signal from the back wall. So there will be actually, if there are number of cracks, there will be small peaks here throughout the graph, and the larger peak will represent the signal from the back wall that has been reflected from the lowermost surface. Now this is what I just mentioned. This is the defect signal. The presence of a defect in the material will show up on the screen of the flow detector with a less distance than from the bottom of the material. So this is actually the defect signal that is going there. The defect signal, the sound wave will travel, hit the defect, and it will reach back. That is shown here, and the backwall signal will also be there. So the presence of a defect in the material shows up on the screen of the flow detector with a less distance than the bottom of the material. So that is what is shown on the graph. Now, the depth of the defect can also be read with reference to the depth of the marker, that is this portion. This portion represents the depth, that is it is reflected off from the yellow line, right? From the yellow line we can indicate that the depth of the defect, that is whatever depth is there, or whatever the what you say, the defect depth is there from the surface, we can find out from the reading on the x-axis. Now here three cases are provided here, A, B and C. In A, the distance between the receiver and the bottommost surface is large. Here it is lower, here it is again lower. So as the distance between the reflector and the bottommost surface decreases, as there is the distance from this point to A, this point to B and this point to C. As the distance between the surface and the bottommost part decreases, the signal will always move towards the left. The signal will become stronger and it will move towards left, because less distance needs to be traveled by the sound to get reflected back. So the thinner the material, the less distance the sound should travel, and the thickness or the signal or the peak will always shift towards the left. That is what is shown here. The closer the reflector signal to the surface, the signal will be more towards the left of the screen, which indicates the lower thickness. This type of materials can be found out where materials need not have uniform thickness. Now we move on to the terminologies that are being used in ultrasonic testing. First of all, you learned all this. First one is the wavelength. Wavelength is actually the distance required to complete a cycle. The wavelength represented by lambda. It is measured in meters or millimeters. Frequency is the number of cycles per unit time, represented by small f. It has a unit hertz, measured in hertz or cycles per second, CPS. Then comes the velocity. Velocity represents how quick the sound travels inside a medium. It is actually represented as a distance per unit time. It is measured in meters, meter per second or centimeter per second. Now first of all we'll define. Okay, now we are discussing about the velocity of sound, the velocity. Now the velocity of sound in a material is actually constant. It depends on the density and the elasticity of the material. That is the main two factors upon which the velocity of sound depends, is actually the density and the elasticity. It will not change if the frequency changes. That is, whatever the frequency change, it will not change, but it will change only when the wavelength of the sound changes. Example, the different velocities in different materials are shown here. In steel it is 5960, in water it is 1470, and it is in air it is 330 meter per second, the velocity of sound. Now, for longitudinal waves, the speed of the sound in a solid material can be found out as shown here. The velocity, longitudinal velocity, that is equal to square root of E into 1 minus Poisson's ratio divided by rho into 1 plus Poisson's ratio into 1 minus 2 times the Poisson's ratio. So it depends mainly on the elasticity, the Poisson's ratio, as well as the density of the material. Now, there will be another velocity that is known as the transverse velocity or shear velocity. So the velocity of sound will have actually two directions, one along the longitude and the other in the transverse direction. So one is known as the longitudinal velocity and the other is known as the shear velocity. The shear velocity of sound is actually given as Vt is equal to square root of g by rho, where g is the shear modulus of elasticity and rho is actually the density of the material. So the relationship between shear modulus and elastic modulus is also given here. This is there in your basic mechanics of solids. From the above equations, we can actually determine that the longitudinal waves, they travel faster compared to the shear waves, right? So this, the longitudinal waves are comparatively or approximately have twice as speed as the shear waves. Now the table below shows the different velocities, the compressional velocity, that is the longitudinal velocity and the shear velocity. As you can see, approximately the longitudinal velocity is approximately twice that of the shear velocity. Now we'll go on to the next term, which is the frequency. The frequency is one of the most important factors in ultrasound testing, because different materials, for testing different materials, we require different frequency. This was discussed earlier. So the choice of frequency, it actually plays a very important role in this method. It depends on two main factors. First one, the minimum size of the defect, which has to be detected. Second one, the medium in which the defect is situated, right? So the medium as well as the size of the defect both play an important factor while choosing the frequency of the sound waves in ultrasonic testing. So as the frequency increases, the wavelength will decrease, and as the frequency decreases, the wavelength of light increases, based on which the velocity also changes, because the wavelength is changing. Now, to give you an idea of frequency, the number of cycles per second, you define it as a number of cycles per second, shown a graph here. That is, this is one cycle, right? This that is the peak starts from the origin, completes half a cycle, then completes one. So one cycle is completed in 1 second. So this is 1 hertz. This represents 1 hertz. Now here, as you can see, in 1 second it completes how many cycles? 1, 2, 3. So 3 cycles are completed in 1 second, which represents 3 hertz. Similarly, in the third figure, it completes 18 cycles in a single second, so it becomes 18 hertz. This is the concept of frequency. Now we move on to wavelength. Wavelength is actually the distance required to complete a full cycle. Sound waves are actually vibrations of the particles in solid, liquid or gases. Particles, they always vibrate about this mean position. So the distance from this point, the start of the cycle to the end of the cycle, represents one wavelength. This is another wavelength. This is half a wavelength, right? So distance taken to complete one cycle is called the wavelength. Now, among the properties of waves that are propagating in isotropic solid materials, actually the three main properties that we require here are wavelength, frequency and velocity. The wavelength is directly proportional to the wave velocity that we have discussed, and is also inversely proportional to the frequency. This point also we have discussed. So the relationship is shown here. Lambda is equal to V by F, where V is the velocity and F is the frequency. Now, the higher the frequency, if you find the relationship between wavelength and frequency, the higher the frequency, the smaller will be the wavelength, or the distance required to complete the cycle. The smaller the wavelength, the higher will be the sensitivity. The smaller wavelength will lead to higher sensitivity. The sensitivity means the smallest detectable flaw that can be detected by the system or using the technique. So what we require here is, we need, as the frequency is increasing, the wavelength is decreasing. So as the wavelength decreases, the sensitivity increases. So in order to get proper sensitivity, we have to go on increasing the frequency, but there is a limitation on increasing the frequency of the material. In ultrasound testing, the smallest detectable flaw is half of the wavelength, that is half of lambda. Now, you need to find out the differences between sensitivity and resolution. Sensitivity and resolution are two terms that are used in ultrasonic inspection. It is not specifically used in ultrasonic inspection. It is used everywhere with measurement techniques in order to describe the technique's ability to locate flaws. Sensitivity is actually the ability to locate very small discontinuities. General sensitivity increases with higher frequency that we have discussed and with shorter wavelength. Resolution is actually the ability of the system to find out discontinuities that are very close together. They have to be separated. So there will be two separate discontinuities and they will be underlying with each other, or they will be overlapping with each other. So higher the resolution, higher is the ability of the system to locate them as two separate discontinuities within the material or located near the part surface. Resolution also increases as the frequency increases. So ultimately what we can infer is, in this testing method, as we go on increasing the frequency of the sound waves, the sensitivity as well as the resolution increases. Now we move on to reflection. Reflection is actually the process by which light can bend or move through the material. That's actually called refraction. The refraction is the ability of the light that can bend or move through the material, or light can bounce off the surface of the material, which is called reflection. When sound waves are traveling in a medium, it strikes the surface of another medium and bounces back in some other direction. This phenomenon is called the reflection of sound. Just like the light is reflecting, similarly sound will also reflect. The waves are called incident sound waves and the reflected ones are called reflected sound waves. Divergence is actually the point above which the sound signals diverge from each other, or it is a term used to describe the spreading across a larger area of the ultrasonic waves beyond the near field. It is a function of the transducer diameter and the wavelength of the medium. And the term, there is a divergence angle, that is the angle within the far field between the beam axis. The beam axis is the point from where they are released, and the beam edge at which the amplitude has fallen by a definite level. Now we'll come across two more terms. Scattering. Scattering is the reflection of sound beams from its original direction of propagation. That is, due to impurities or some other defect, the sounds may be reflected off and will not reach back to the receiver. And absorption is actually the materials within the particles or the atoms. They sometimes can absorb the sound waves which cannot be reflected back. So it is a conversion of sound energy from one form to another form. It may be absorbed in the form of different forms of energy. Now we come to the term attenuation. Attenuation of the sound waves is actually a combined effect of scattering and absorption. In scattering and absorption, the light waves are either scattered away in a totally different direction so that they cannot reach back to the pulse, and attenuation, and absorption is actually the absorption, that is the sound waves are absorbed by the material itself. So both of these are actually a sort of defect, because the sound waves that is scattered or absorbed does not reach back to the source. So when a sound beam travels through any medium, its intensity is gradually reducing because of scattering and absorption, which may cause an error. The attenuation is actually defined as the decayed rate of propagation of the sound waves. It is shown here, the formula: A is equal to A0 into e raised to minus AZ, where A0 is the initial unscattered amplitude, alpha is the attenuation constant, Z is the distance of travel, and A is the final amplitude. Okay, now we'll be coming to the end of this lecture. In the next class, we'll be proceeding with other concepts that are there in ultrasonic testing. Thank you.